for further debate, I turn to the member from Orleans.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I'll be sharing my time this morning with the member from Ottawa South. It's an honour to speak about the valued role members of the Canadian Forces and our veterans play in our country, and in particular what has become affectionately known as CFB Orleans. So many families from the community that I grew up in, that I call home, and I have the honour of representing here in this legislature, have sacrificed in ways that we can only begin to imagine. They've sacrificed time away from their family. They've sacrificed the stability of their family. They've sacrificed their bodies and their minds. And some, of course, Mr. Speaker, have given the ultimate sacrifice. And we owe it to members of the Canadian Forces and our veterans and their families to ensure that their bodies and souls are cared for. You know, I still remember very clearly, Mr. Speaker, the Sunday dinner when my brother told us he was going to Afghanistan. And that was a very difficult night. It was filled with lots of emotions, but of course, pride being the one that came to the forefront. And so, continuing and modernizing the Soldiers' Aid Commission is important. And we must ensure that Ontario supports this new generation of veterans in the ways that we always have. And I want to thank very much my former council colleague, Deputy Mayor Matthew Lulaw from the City of Ottawa, who is the City Council liaison for military and Veterans Affairs, who is also an Afghanistan veteran, for calling attention to a very important issue CAF members and veterans are facing here in Ontario, Mr. Speaker. As you may know, regular force and full-time employed Canadian Force reservists benefit from the full range of healthcare services provided by the Canadian Forces medical services, and they are not entitled to provincial health benefits. But this creates some challenges for many military families, Mr. Speaker. While the CAF members themselves receive excellent medical care through the armed forces, their families don't. They access these services through the provincial healthcare system. And military families often find it difficult to secure a family physician as a result of multiple relocations across the country. And without a family physician, Mr. Speaker, families face lengthy wait times for referrals, prescription refills, and other specialist care. Military families can miss periodic health assessments, routine screenings, immunizations, and preventive care. And for military families with children with special needs, the challenge of not having a family doctor can have extreme consequences for timely diagnosis, referrals to other specialized care, and educational supports. The families of military members with physical or mental illness may have to deal with changing behaviours and intense relationship dynamics. Family members are also often the primary informal caregiver, which can lead to negative physical and mental health consequences for them, as well as for the ill or injured military member. And as we all know, Mr. Speaker, in rural locations, specialist care, if available at all, may be hours away. You know, 5,000 members of the armed forces retire each year, Mr. Speaker, and most of those retirees live here in Ontario. And for years, these brave men and women have served our nation and received medical care as part of their service. As they integrate back into the community, they now require a family physician to take care of their sometimes often complex health needs. And what's not widely known, Mr. Speaker, is that when they are released from service, these Canadian Forces members are on their own to try to find a family physician and access provincial healthcare systems. This often means that after years of serving their country, perhaps suffering from some form of physical or mental injury, these brave men and women now have to search for a primary care physician, with many of them ending up on a wait list. And I mentioned the 5,000 members of the CAF that retire each and every year, many of whom end up in Ontario. There are another 1,000 members of the forces that are released for medical reasons, mostly due to permanent employment limitations of a physical nature, but about 40% are released because of employment limitations of a mental health illness. So imagine now you've served your country bravely for years, perhaps even decades, and as a result of your service, you have a physical or mental health condition that limits your ability to remain employed. And now we ask you to go out and find your own family doctor and wait on a wait list. And I want to make it clear, Mr. Speaker, that these are not criticisms of the bill or the government. These issues have been around for a long time, but rather I'd like these concerns to be taken as a call to action as we continue to look for ways to improve Bill 202, as it makes its way through the process to engage with veterans, to engage with members of the Canadian Forces and their families, to understand how their day-to-day health and medical needs can be addressed through the provincial health system to ensure that the gaps that military families and veterans are facing today can be addressed, whether it's through the Soldiers' Aid Commission or by any other means. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.